Sydney Sweeney has been under heavy fire from the woke freaks and so many people in the Hollywood echo chamber for daring not to virtue signal, for daring not to apologize for absolutely no reason. And when confronted with a ridiculous concocted narrative about her Sydney Sweeney Has Great Genes ad campaign for American Eagle, which was highly successful and all normal people thought was a clever ad and a great idea, and something that resulted in a massive boom for American Eagle's sales, well, the woke freaks and the degenerates, they did not like it. They tried to label Sydney Sweeney a racist. They tried to label her a Nazi. And when an activist woke reporter spent an entire interview leading up to a moment to try to force her to apologize for something that wasn't even real, she didn't play the game. As a result, when her movie came out just a few days later, Christy, a story about a female boxer who was abused by a man who is an out lesbian and who would go on to overcome all these obstacles, it flopped at the box office. A lot of those people said, that's what happened. She ruined it. It's what she did. She's the reason this happened, which quite frankly is just ridiculous. As inspiring as this story may be, I just don't know if this is something that ever had mass appeal and mass interest invested in its success. But this is what people said, including failed woke actress Ruby Rose. Ruby Rose, who some of you guys might not even remember the name because, quite frankly, she hasn't been relevant in quite some time. The thing you might remember her most notably for would be Batwoman. She was Batwoman, at least in the first season, until she got fired and replaced. They race swapped the character and put a different character in her place. And she said, all these things have been done. I'm going to file a lawsuit. All these people, they're the reason I'm gone. It had nothing to do with me. Until people said they were going to countersue, and I'm pretty sure she fled the country. Ruby Rose is an activist freak, okay? I think that she identifies as non-binary. I don't even know what her pronouns are supposed to be, but she came out swinging hard against Sydney Sweeney. Probably because apparently she was supposed to be in this movie and it didn't work out for her. And considering the box office results of Ruby Rose's most recent films, you can see why she would have wanted the work. $31,000, $6,000, $18,000, $5,000, $146,000. These are her most recent movies. These are the box office results. What a huge draw Ruby Rose is. But Ruby Rose went all in on Sydney Sweeney. The original Christy Martin script was incredible, life-changing. I was attached to play Cherry. Everyone had experience with the core material. Most of us were actually gay. It's part of why I stayed in acting. Losing roles happens all the time. For her PR to talk about it flopping and saying SS. I like how you're putting SS in there instead of Sydney Sweeney. Right? We can tell what you're doing. Did it for the people. None of the people wanted to see someone who hates them parading around pretending to be us. You're a cretin and you ruined the film. Period. Christy deserved better. Well, certainly most people mocked and made fun of Ruby Rose for even suggesting this. But it gets worse for Ruby Rose. It gets a lot worse for Ruby Rose because the person that she is invoking, Christy Martin, the person who this story is about, has come out swinging to defend Sydney Sweeney. Woke fail. Hall of Fame boxer Christy Martin defends Sydney Sweeney after actress Ruby Rose attacks. She is my friend and ally. Isn't it weird, Ruby Rose, that although you say that, oh, this is terrible, you ruined the movie, it's an embarrassment, you hate all of us, blah, blah, blah. It's interesting that the person the movie's actually about comes out and defends Sydney Sweeney. Strange, isn't it? Strange, isn't it? Boxer Christy Martin defended Hollywood megastar, let's say star. Breitbart. We could say star. Certainly, she gets a ton of media attention. I don't know if megastar is quite the right word, though. Sydney Sweeney, after Australian actress Ruby Rose called the Euphoria star a cretin and claimed she ruined Martin's biopic, Christy. I want to be clear about who Sid is. She is my friend and ally. So this is Christy Martin over on her Instagram. Let's read this entire thing. I don't think we need to watch the reel, but we can definitely read this part. I've always been a fighter. My life reflected that in every way, and now I fight for others. The past few days, I've seen some people attack my friend, Sydney Sweeney. Sid not only worked her ass off in this film, she worked her ass off for me, for my story, for so many others suffering in silence. So I want to be clear about who Sid is. She's my friend and ally. Weird, isn't it? That the person that this entire thing about has said, basically rebuked all of that bullshit, rebuked all of that garbage, and said she's proud to call her a friend. Now, I know that some people might have some opinion on what Sydney Sweeney thinks, and you think that, oh, well, she's just super right-wing or whatever. I don't necessarily know what Sydney Sweeney thinks. I do know that she's been an active participant in things like GLAAD, right? Which Ruby Rose is sitting there saying she hates all gay people. She hates gay people, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know how you go and support GLAAD and then that allegation gets leveled against you. And now you have the lesbian boxer coming out and refuting all of this shit as well. I do not think that the flop of this movie has too much to do with the backlash against Sydney Sweeney, because quite frankly, the backlash, just like we saw with the American Eagle ad campaign, the backlash is from weirdos and freaks and degenerates that don't actually represent society. They don't represent normal people. They represent maybe the media, the Hollywood elites, and the fringe weirdos with pronouns in their fucking bios and don't know exactly what their gender is. Those people. Right? That's who the backlash is from. These weirdo freaks, or maybe about 1% of the population. They might have a couple tweets that blow up and get circulated around in their subreddits and their Discord groups, wherever they go, to desperately try to feel some connection to somebody so they don't off themselves, right? That might be 1% of people out there. I think the reason that this failed is because I don't know if Sydney Sweeney's fan base, and I don't know if the general population is necessarily all that interested in a story like this, and maybe it is super well done. Maybe if I hear some really great things about it from people that I trust who have seen it, maybe I'll go see it, right? But right now, this is not something that ever truly appealed to me, even somebody who is, interested in things that Sydney Sweeney does. But how funny is it for Ruby Rose, this stupid, stuck-up, woke bitch, who is a failure of an actress, who they wouldn't even let her speak when she had a supporting role in John Wick 2, because her character was supposed to speak, and they realized she's such a fucking bad actress. She was so terrible that at the last moment they said, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if your character was a mute and communicated with sign language? Wouldn't that be an interesting thing? This is actually what happened to Ruby Rose. That's what a bad actress she is. And she, who has failed every step of the way and uses her fucking identity as victimhood all the time, she slams Sydney Sweeney, calls her a cretin, says she hates all gay people, says all of this shit, and says that she ruined the story, only to have the person who the story's actually about come out and defend Sydney Sweeney. I love irony like that. What do you guys think about this entire situation? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.